Angus Young, how you doing?
Good, Becko.
The Offspring.
How's it going, Becko?
Dave Grohl, how you going, mate?
Good, man.
Pete, it's been a long time coming.
Oh, Becko, hasn't it indeed?
We go inside the dressing room, speak to the biggest names in music,
Keith Richards of the Rolling Stones.
and crack open their esky.
That's exactly how I imagine you, by the way, sitting opposite me with a vodka and orange.
You're a discerning chap. This is The Rider.
Yes, welcome back to The Rider. This is Becko, and what an incredible couple of weeks it's been with Tim Rogers from UMI. UMI doing a bunch of gigs around the country. Tim's also fronting up and doing the Sticky Fingers tour with an incredible list of legendary bandmates. So if you missed both episodes with Tim Rogers from UMI, you can catch up right now on all platforms. But now onto some new music. Midnight Oil's new album, Resist, is going to be out in a few weeks' time. But this week, it was a massive return of the Red Hot Chili Peppers, the new album due April 1. I'm assuming that is the date. Their 12th album, Unlimited Love. And this week, we heard for the first time, Black Summer. And we knew they were back in the studio. We saw the band sharing things on their socials over the last 6 months. It was a return of John Frusciante as well, which is a really big step for the band. And the band also announced that we're doing world summer tours as well to coincide with the new album coming out. So that's brand new Chili Peppers. We had brand new Liam Gallagher this week. Everything's electric. And this is the big one because Liam Gallagher's working on new music. An album, Come On You Know, comes out May 27th. But this particular song is special because it's co-written by Dave Grohl. They've toured together many times over the years, and this has been the first time, though, they've collaborated, and maybe there's something more in the works. Who knows? So that's new music from Liam Gallagher and the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and for Aussie music fans, it was a real tough week as well because we lost an absolute legend. At the age of 74, we lost Glenn Wheatley. He was manager of Little River Band. He took them from playing pubs to performing in stadiums in America. He brought back John Farnham. He put his own house on the line when it came to John Farnham's Whispering Jack and the album Major Reason. Tim Wheatley, his son, this week was about to release his latest EP. That is now on hold. But he did release a great tribute for his dad, this song. A cover of Because I Love You. So there's Tim Wheatley with a cover of his dad's song, Because I Love You, and lots of love to the family as well. Now, this week on The Rider, our next guest.
Oh, hi. It's Novak from Polish Club here.
Hey, we're Polish Club.
Trusting your gut? That takes guts. It's time to start dreaming. We've found the recipe for success. So set the table, would ya? 'Cause now we're cooking.
Now we're cooking. The latest album, which came out right in the middle of COVID. Just when we thought there was a glimmer of hope, life would get back to normal. You can go and stream it right now. They had plans to do some more touring, but that's pushed back a little bit more to 2022. And I want to see what Novak is up to because he's had some side hustles over the years and he's always got some great stories and always got something on the go. So let's see if that Zoom call is coming in right now. There he is. G'day, Novak.
Look at this. You look very professional. Look at that backdrop.
This is just the lounge room, but I've found out
bullshit.
What down there, it's like one of those Bunnings lights. And
LEDs.
You just shine it at the bookcase.
You look like an influencer, mate.
Don't even say it. Where is you? You're in your bloody bedroom. I love it.
Hey, it's my study. Thank you very much.
Okay, in the study.
It's as professional as we'll get, I think,
But at least you got a proper microphone and you're not just
exactly
doing a podcast off Mac speaker or whatever, So that's good.
It's one of my pet peeves.
Yeah, same here. I mean, you take these interviews, whenever you can get them, but you always really quietly hope, I hope they got a good microphone. But
no one wants to listen to like half an hour of some old bloke, talking into his iPhone.
Yeah, and sometimes it's like that, particularly with bad home internet or whatever. But how you been, mate?
Pretty good. Surprisingly busy, I guess. We've done a new EP, and we're just trying to get going again, or keep going. I guess it's good.
Yeah,
can't complain.
Yeah, it's sort of hard, I guess, because the normal thing is, you release something and then you feel like you got to go on tour. Well, you have to go on tour because you got to support it and you got to create hype and all that stuff. And that is kind of out the window at the moment.
Man, I mean, all you can do is kind of act like everything's going to happen normally, right? Because no one knows or can prepare for what's going to happen. So, we announced a tour June last year, I think, or maybe even earlier, and it's been postponed twice. Now it's happening in April, and I think now for the first time, the vibe is very much it's going to happen no matter what, in some shape or form. I think the opportunity to, or the necessity to postpone things or cancel things is kind of gone, and you just have to be as malleable and pragmatic as you can be, and just make it happen in the safest and smartest way possible.
Yeah, it sort of feels like April is about the realistic time because all the smart touring companies seem to delay anything major until April, which I noticed, or even sort of March. But April seems to be the one where a lot of the bigger festivals are popping up. And
well, like when we were speaking to our agent back in, because it was originally rescheduled for October, November, and we could have gone with January, February, or any time in between then and now. And I think we just shot further than we possibly needed to at the time, just to kind of be as safe as possible. Because like ultimately, it's already been delayed. There's no real rush per se, or there's not as much rush as you think there is, as long as it happens. And rather than jerk everyone around and have to mess with fans and people getting tickets and having to get refunds or reschedule their lives, we'd rather just aim long.
The other funny thing is, or unexpected delay as well, is vinyl, because everyone I've spoken to, they're trying to release music, and you need vinyl now to supplement the streaming numbers, and there's vinyl delays everywhere because of all sorts of big releases and COVID.
Because of Adele.
Yes, because of Adele. Oh,
it's
man.
great. It's funny because we've always prioritized vinyl as the physical form of our records, and any release we really do, even if it's a small whatever single. But now it's kind of like the pop world is not catching up, but kind of discovering how valuable that can be, and how much people actually enjoy having something tangible, especially when if you're streaming music, you don't necessarily own it. So to have something that you can hold in your hands, I think is appealing to anyone. So in one sense, it's really nice that it's so popular now and that it's kind of become the norm. It sucks to have to kind of have so much foresight and pretty much delay everything and schedule everything for new music around being able to have vinyl. But I think as long as it's on the horizon and as long as it comes, no one's going to get angry if you release music hypothetically and there's no vinyl on the release day. I don't think anyone's going to kick up a stink. Everyone knows that's the case. So I'd rather it be the case that there is too much demand for supply, and maybe that leads to more local vinyl pressing plants opening. I think there's a new one in Melbourne, I heard. So, if that's the end result, I think the net gain is beneficial to everyone, particularly locally.
I keep thinking about all those vinyl factories that they were closing down in the late 80s, early 90s, and I keep thinking, oh my God, if only they knew.
I know. But it's nice. I mean, it's all cyclical, it always comes back. And I think those are the things that people always come back to. Those are like the souvenirs of music. And it's more and more so now for any genre. Kind of, genre's dead. Vinyl's cool for any artist now, which is amazing.
You never know. Cassettes might make a comeback. Actually, I'm hoping for CDs, because I've got thousands of CDs in the garage in boxes and tubs, thinking one day they're going to be worth something.
It's a thing. I mean, the 90s has like been, it's far off away now that it's cool again. Fashion was first, and 90s fashion has well and truly come back. So I would not be surprised to see CDs come back. I think, we've pressed a few cassettes more as a novelty. I don't think you can expect anyone to have a cassette player and be able to listen to what's on it. So we've been known to put old iPhone demos and stuff on cassettes just to give to people in a bundle just for that posterity. But yeah, I mean, you'll be happy to know for the last album we did, the demos went onto a CD rather. So it's all cool, man.
It's all cool. Did I see you on a Domino's ad and also a Jimmy Brings ad recently? Is everyone been saying, dude?
It's so funny. Like,
it's great.
I mean, I own it. I got paid well. So, you know, I like to be able to live and pay rent, and I like to eat pizza. So it made sense to me. And I like to sing stupid songs. So why not get paid well for it?
Absolutely. Well, this is the thing. I don't understand people giving shit for people for going out and earning a living as a musician in the worst possible time to be a musician. You know,
yeah,
you have to.
I mean, look, I'll be completely honest with you. Almost literally no one's giving me shit for it. Literally no one. I haven't noticed it. I mean, even if they were, I wouldn't be paying attention anyways. I couldn't give shit. But the funny thing is, everyone who it's not everyone who's obsessed with it. It's everyone's parents who are obsessed with it, which I think maybe is like a free to air TV thing.
It must be.
Like it comes up on free to air TV, and the only people that really watch that on a regular basis are people's parents, rather than people yours or my age.
Yeah.
But the first question they ask is, hey man, do you like get all the free pizza you want now? Like, are you just set for life? And I'm like, they didn't give me any pizza. Like, they paid me money, which, yeah, granted, I could go spend it on a pizza. But I think it would be derisory if my payment was in pizza. I mean, it's not very expensive. That's the whole point. It's very affordable.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's not like that 90s thing. Who was it? Was it Britney? They had the Coke versus Pepsi thing, and she was spotted with Coke.
Oh, yeah. I remember Britney, Christina Aguilera, and someone else. Maybe it was Cher.Maybe it was Madonna. They were all in a Pepsi ad. I think they were all Pepsi people.
I better not see you with.
I have no allegiance though. Like, you know, I got enough love for anyone who wants to pay me.
Yeah. And well, this is the thing. The Jimmy Brings ad as well, which I don't think's out yet, but I saw the stills for it. I love how they're supporting Australian music and getting a lot of musos together. And
it was a weird day. It is out. You can see it on their page. It was one hot, humid day at I found out the thing they do is, right, if you're making an ad or shooting a TV show or whatever, you can like basically rent out specific houses that have been approved to be shot in, and I don't think anyone lives in them, but they're like just normal houses in a suburb. This was down south in the Shire, and so we were just in someone's random house that was like fully kitted out like a house. And we spent the whole day there. It felt like a school camp or something. It was like Ruby Fields, Alarm Cordial, client liaison. It was very, very strange, but it was lovely. We got to spend the day with the Juniorats boys. They were our partners for our scene, and they were, more lovely than any rock band should be.
Isn't it nice? Because I mean, actually, you know what? I think the media always loves a good, feud. And it was a thing in the 80s. They always had, the hair bands up against each other and whatever. Like, Guns N' Roses were feuding with Nirvana or whatever. It doesn't seem to happen these days because, it's just everyone gets along. And
well, there's nothing to gain from it. I mean, we had a run-in that wasn't even a run-in. It was almost literally nothing. When we toured with Royal Blood, it became a whole thing.
Yeah.
Even though it was almost literally nothing. It was a throwaway line of like, we never met them. And it's like, that's fine. They're a big rock band. They're busy on tour. And when you get set up in like the Horden Pavilion, they put the headline act and the support act on like different sides of the building. Like, it's no one's choice. It just happened that way. And all of a sudden that turned into some faux beef thing. And I just think like no one has the time for it. Like, we're all just trying to make as much friends as possible, because that's what benefits you at the end of the day. Everyone busts their ass too hard for you to go out of your way to be difficult. Any total asshole, especially in like guitar-based bands, I find like touring musicians, you won't last if you're a total piece of shit to everyone around you. And I think everyone just gets in the habit of being pleasant and friendly with each other, because because especially when you get to that stage where you're like playing festivals and stuff, you're gonna run into these people everywhere. So like, what's the point in doing BS beef?
You're right. Chances are you are going to work together at some point, and
Yeah.
you might do a beer commercial or something, or
or Jimmy Brink's commercial,
or
Yeah,
Jimmy
there you
Brink's. Tell me more about this this EP and everything. So you dropped the album last year in the middle of COVID. That must have been really tedious, I guess, trying to get that through.
That's the word, yeah.
In the middle of it, yeah, and I think you whittled it down from 100 songs or something.
It was a real pain in the ass, and everything except actually recording and making the album, when it came down to it, was a pain in the ass. But like actually doing that album was fine. We did it in less than 2 weeks. But like you said, being stuck at home when you're trying to like flog your wares, it really feels kind of pointless at times, especially when you do like stuff like this from home where you're speaking to people. It becomes a little less tangible that you're actually doing stuff, because like it could feel like I'm just talking on Discord or something, or hanging out with friends and just having a chat. Whereas if you're going out and doing press and stuff for an album, and you're going in person to various places, you go see your label, you have all these meetings, it's like, oh, this feels like an event. And I think that whole like feeling of a release being a milestone and a real plant your flag moment is totally just kind of watered down when you're doing it all from the study. It was fine, and it was easy, in a literal sense, because I got the setup, I can do it, it's no problem, I can do as many interviews as I want. But the kind of magic of it all was a bit lost. But having said all that, we found that we had a lot of music. So, and we're trying to, as much as you can be when you're at a major label, trying to be as prolific as we can be, which is to say release as much music as we can. So as soon as we finished that, we went back in, recorded some new music, and now we're just trying to figure out how to kind of release it and get it out. The question now is, when does everything become, I don't want to use the word normal because I don't know what that is anymore, but when does it all become easier to do? How can I avoid having to do it in the same way we had to do the last album? But yeah, there'll be new music this year. It's all pretty much done. We've recorded a bunch of songs, and it's very well and truly in the rock wheelhouse, I'd say. Good. More so than anything we've done before.
It happens in cycles too, though. You have bands who, the whole industry starts, doing happy clap pop kind of stuff, and it becomes a thing, and hey ho and all that stuff, and then it always comes back eventually. It just corrects itself.
I think it's like we are obsessed with both sides of that. We very much enjoyed trying to make a pop album, and I think when you're with a major label, you're always going to be not pushed, but guided into the direction that will allow you to grow your audience. And the general consensus, right or wrong, I would argue sometimes it's wrong, is that, to have the most mainstream album that you can come up with is a good idea if you're at a major label. And we were open to that. It's not like a gun to your head scenario, because we like to try to do it in our own way and try to actively make pop songs. And I think that's what we kind of tried to do. Whether or not we succeeded, I don't know. That's what we did last album. So coming back to these ones, we went back to a bunch of ideas that we had in the bank, and just made a bunch of rock songs. I think a lot of it has to do with where we came from with the last album, but also B, the fact we haven't been able to play much live. And the most fun thing for us to do, maybe I won't speak for John, but I'm pretty confident that we both feel this way. The most fun songs to play live are always the more rockin' ones, the ones that are a bit more aggressive and a bit more, I just find it more fun. And I think that just plays to our strengths more. So it was very, very, very easy for us to just kind of book a studio for, what was it, 6 days, 7 days maybe, and record as many rock songs as we could with Wade and Dan. We did it as a 4-piece, and it was just very painless in every way.
Is that what I saw on your socials? I don't know, months ago. Was it the Gosford Studios? Is that what it was? Yeah, because I saw that and I was like,
no. So that was the previous one. That was the album.
Yeah.
So
right.
that was at the Grove for Now We're Cooking. That was done with Scott Horscroft. Again, that part of it was super easy. I mean, Scott's a pro, and we had all the songs more prepared than we ever had. So there was barely anything to change from his end when we came in and played everything. So we got that done 2 days early in like 12 days. This time we did it locally in Marrickville. Wade produced it, who did our previous 2 albums and all the EPs in between. And we got Dan, who's been playing bass with us. He played second guitar on it. And it was just super, super fun. It's nice to kind of, because we've been in a 2-piece and kind of overreaching with stuff that we do in the studio by ourselves, because there's only 2 of us. It was nice to have 4 players and to just, you know, have the time and have the ability to try all the classic rock things, you know, throw a solo in there, double up the guitars, do whatever. It was fun.
We see that with all bands as they mature, they figure out that as a 2 or a 3-piece, when they're going to go on tour, especially, they're like, okay, we need to get at least 2 more people to make this work. And
totally,
yeah,
I think it's also now it's becoming a mental and physical health concern, trying to do, you know, 2 hours of music or an hour and a half just with the 2 of us. I think we sell ourselves short, because there's always that feeling when there's 2 people on stage that you have to overcompensate. I have to scream louder, John has to hit harder, just to fill that silence when everything stops. Whereas now, if it's, you know, Dan and Kirsty, or if it's Dan and Wade, or whatever it might be, with 4 people on stage, there's never silence, there's never an awkward break, there's never a time where it's like, oh God, I just want to stop, because I can stop now. I can go for a walk, you know, I can have a chat with the crowd, and there's still a funky bass line or something in the back. So it's fine. It's a huge weight off our shoulders.
We did a good job with that Factory Theatre when I went to. It was Origin night, and you were crossing to the big screen to get the score update, but you had a full band there for memory, and it was a really entertaining night. And also seated. It was a seated gig.
Yeah,
you know,
it's different. It's really like the concern when you do all that stuff, you go back to what's comfy and what feels easier. The concern is that you might lose a bit of the edge, or you might lose a bit of the energy, because you become complacent. It becomes easy. You kind of sometimes need that stress of having to overperform. I think that sometimes it brings out a bit of danger in a set. But I think once you become aware of that, and once you become confident on stage, like, I think it goes to show how confident John is now, that he can be like, right before the show, hey, can you just get the big screen up? I want to watch the Origin. I don't give a shit. It's stuff like that kind of sets it apart, I think. And you need those moments, because if you become comfortable as a 4-piece band and it's just the generic thing, you know, people will all of a sudden just be watching, you know, a Coldplay show.
Yeah, well said. No, it was really, really quite a fun night, and I think everyone needed a bit of light entertainment. The chemistry you guys have together as well. I mean, that's what makes the band, the sense of humor you guys have. And
I always get shitty when I go to shows, and this is not to say that we're amazing, I just think we're comfortable, but I get shitty when I go to shows, and people, I think the first thing some bands forget, or a lot of bands forget, is that it's a performance. You know, people get distracted by playing the songs right, people get distracted by anything, you know, choosing the right songs, looking a certain way. They forget the most important thing is the attention of the crowd, and to keep them engaged. And I think even if you're pissing someone off, even if you're offending someone, or singing badly, or making a noise, or watching the bloody Origin on a big screen, as long as it's something that makes people pay attention and makes people, I don't know, bring out their phones and take a photo. It kind of makes it click with you that you're like, okay, I've hooked these people in. And I think that's the most important thing. It's not really about the quality of any of that. It's just about the immediacy of it, the power of owning people's attention it's everything in that moment.
I think you're going to find people are going to be so grateful to see live music in the next 6-12 months. They're going to be going out no matter what they got to do. Like last night, saw UMI. Everyone was wearing face masks. It was seated, distanced. And as a result, the crowd was a bit flat, but that's not because they were flat. It's just because of the circumstances, But I think people are still going to really want to go out and see a band, even if they've got to wear a mask, or even if it's outdoors, seated like it was at, say, Yours and Ours last year, which was a real experiment. They had all these seated outdoor areas, and it still worked though,
Yeah, it's a challenge for the performers, and I think a lot of people, you either sink or swim when you're put up against those things, because I'd say the majority of acts, or at least half of them, especially at a festival like Yours and Ours, will not feel they're in the best of circumstances if they have to perform to people who are seated and who aren't able to dance or just go crazy, to generalize. And I think it really weeds out the people who aren't prepared for that, because I think if you're a good performer, you know how to play to your strengths and tailor to any context. I think that's something that we've lost, relatively recently, because bands now, I mean, this is a tangent, apologies in advance, but new acts these days, the sort of process of having to build your chops and get better at playing live, because that's the only place you'd be discovered by an A&R person, and that's the only place that people can discover new music. That's sort of gone now. People can get signed off of TikTok, which is fine. I have no problem with that whatsoever, but as far as I'm concerned, they're two different career paths completely, because what happens is these people get put on a stage when they're already massive, when they've already signed to, Universal or Sony, and they don't know how to play live. And then you put those people on at a festival in front of a seated crowd, and people aren't engaged, because in the audience defense, it's not their fault. It's hard to get into certain genres of music when you have to sit down and you can't be tightly packed in with your mates. These people don't know how to adjust to that anymore. And I think a lot of that comes from not having to play like 100 shows before anyone even gives a shit about your band, before anyone even knows who you are. 20 years ago, maybe even 10 years ago, bands would have to go play on the pub in the corner every weekend before anyone even had a chance to discover who they are. Now it's not the case. It's fine, but the live show suffers. So I think we were lucky we got noticed before we played too many shows, but we still loved playing live. So we played as many shows as possible regardless. So we've kind of learned how to play to our strengths live, and it's become the focal point. Even when we're writing music, the question is this going to be fun to listen to live? Are we going to be able to turn this into a show? At the end of the day, it's all about the show. It's not about the record, really. For me, it's about playing it live. So I'm confident that we can do whatever. It's sitting down. If everyone's asleep, I don't care. I'll wake them up if I have to. But yeah, it's tough. I feel for these people who are like, all right, you're huge, but you never played a show before. Go play in front of people sitting down. I don't know.
This is where Aussie bands always had an advantage too, because they were born in the pubs or even smaller places like tiny bars, and they were doing 2 shows a night or 3 sometimes on a weekend, and then they would go overseas and they would do what you guys did, and you toured around America, and all the American bands didn't know how to have that stamina to tour every day.
There is a flip side to that coin, though, because by virtue of the breadth of Australia, it's so big that if you want to tour, you're gonna have to pay a shitload of money on plane tickets and accommodation, and it's grossly prohibitive to to your average band. So there is something that the Europeans and maybe even to a bigger extent the Americans have on us, is that they can literally get into a van and play 1,000 shows to new people every night for an entire year as a nothing band and not go totally broke. Whereas here, you can play in Newtown. If you live in Sydney, you can play in Newtown. Maybe you'll drive down to Wollongong. Maybe you'll drive up to Newcastle every now and then. But there's only so far you can go. I mean, the country's small in population and giant in size. So I do think, yeah, we do have the amazing culture that, especially back years and years ago, would foster a really talented live music scene. But I think now it's getting harder and harder because we don't have that natural geography that is, lending itself to making touring really easy and sustainable for growing bands.
Well, a lot of the medium to smaller bands that are around at the moment, they don't do what the old school bands used to do, where they would do a gig in Goulburn, then do a gig in Canberra, and then just work their way down to Melbourne slowly. They seem to now, risky. Yeah, it's too risky. They just want to book the bigger shows and do less of them.
Well, because quite frankly, when we tour, we try to do as many regionals as possible. It wasn't always the case, but now we want to, because we know we have fans there. We know we could play shows and have people see us for the first time. And we don't want to ignore those people. But even us as a band that has proved sustainable over the past, I don't know, what is it, 6 years, 7 years now? Even for us, we'll go broke if we do a full-on regional tour. We can't afford it. Especially now when our live show is geared around having 4 people, that doubles our touring party. It literally doubles our cost.
Yeah.
We can't afford to work our way down to Melbourne. We will literally lose all our money that we've saved to be able to afford tours. So it's tricky. Everyone has to weigh up the bottom line, which isn't romantic, but that's the fact of the matter.
You got to eat.
We got to be able to be in a band this same time next year, and that's not going to be the case if we play every show in every city that we want to. I mean, we toured in Germany a couple of years ago, and we were on a bus, which was a novelty because you can't do that here. We slept on a bus and toured with 2 local bands, and just talking to them about what the status quo is there for touring, even if you're not popular, people can afford to do things like hire a giant 20 sleeper tour bus and play 10 shows around Germany and make money off of it. I mean, that's unfathomable here. It's literally impossible. So it really is a unique set of circumstances. I think there are a lot of pros and there are a lot of cons, which I've covered, but it's tough if you're like an emerging act. I don't know what the advice is anymore. The advice used to be go play at Spectrum on Oxford Street, go play at Candy's apartment, go play at Mum, and just do that and get better. And you could play there every week. Now that doesn't exist. So I don't know what the advice is for new bands now.
Now, I want to actually, while we're talking about doing shows and stuff, the whole premise of the podcast is the writer. And I got to ask, what do you guys put in the esky?
It used to be really like no bullshit and like real nonplussed. We're just like, what was it? 24 beers of any kind, preferably like a cheap one, like a VB.
Is he paying for it anyway?
Or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, more often than not. And just because we're not fancy, Young Henry's got involved once upon a time. They provided us with our beer, so that was lovely to know that we'd have Young Henry's there for sure. But I have a thing with beer where I just get real burpy and gassy. So yeah. As a singer, I have like a limit. I can only do like 2 or 3. I know that's not the coolest thing in the world to say, but in my defense, as a result, in replacement of that, it's always a bottle of scotch for me.
Yeah. Okay,
which is great. So like the benefit of doing that, here's a hot tip. If anyone ever gets lucky enough to request a rider, go with the hard spirits and the hard liquor, because if you get it, they have to give you a bottle. It doesn't come in any other form. I mean, they're not going to give you the little travel ones.
Yes.
So rather than like, if it's tight and they're only going to give you like a 6-pack, you're going to get a whole bottle of scotch, and you're going to be able to probably, because like, let's be honest, you're not drinking the whole thing unless you're an absolute champion. You're going to be taking home like half a bottle of scotch every night you're on tour. And it's genius. It's incredible. So the rider is one bottle of scotch. It's usually like one bottle of vodka, maybe a bottle of wine or something for the band or whoever's there. It depends on who's in our party. But then it's just as much beer as possible, because John's not a particular man. He will drink any beer. He'll be happy as long as it's preferably Australian and cold. He'll drink it. So it's usually a case of beer and a bottle of scotch. And we've added, because we're getting on, we've added just, some nibblies, like some veggies or some fruit, just something to snack on that's not horrible and going to kill us or make us sick. And that's pretty much it. Like it's real simple stuff.
Give it time. You're going to be that guy who's going to be ordering the special recipe, flask with special lemon and honey and
I mean, look, we have like multiple. It's a malleable rider, and there's a lot of stuff that's on it that we don't expect. But it's like, if it's our tour and we're going on tour, and we can kind of plan these things in advance. Yes, there might be some like ginger and honey and lemon for my tea, and there would be water or what else is there? I mean, back in the day, we kept it as lean as possible, like I said, and I think it was 2 bananas, 1 each. Potassium, very important. Hydration, very important. 2 bananas and 2 quote unquote nutritious muesli bars. That was the extent of the food on it. Now we've extended it because I think we've gone far too many shows without eating and have really paid the price the next day. So it's filled out a bit, but I like to think it's quite reasonable. I mean, we're not superstars. Let's be real here.
There's certain venues where you're going to get some pizza.
Oh, at the Lansdowne?
The Lansdowne. Yeah, the pizzas are
very
famous.
Good pizza. Sometimes it's bad pizza, though. Like there's a few venues that do the like, oh, this is definitely a frozen like McCain's pizza scenario, which I respect. I'm like, okay, very thrifty, and I respect that. You're a business, you need to survive. But it's like, had we known in advance, we could have just taken it off the list. Thank you very much.
I saw that at a pub near Cooma. It was definitely a McCain's frozen pizza. It was.
Oh yeah. But then those like regional shows, there was what's it called? The Spotted Cow or the something in Toowoomba. Yeah. It's changed hands now, but it used to be run by this family, and they made like legit one of the best spag bowls I've ever had in my life, and it was famous for that. Yeah. And it was literally like they just cooked up a giant vat of this spag bowl and fed everyone like 2 serves, and it was amazing. So you get those ones, those rough gems where they really put a lot of effort into it, and I think no one is more appreciative than a struggling artist who gets free food. It's a real sweet thing to have. Yeah. I mean, the funniest thing was when we were on that aforementioned German tour, we discovered that when you tour in Germany, literally all the venues will cook you pretty much breakfast, lunch, and dinner everywhere you go, because you arrive on the bus in the morning. Yeah. And it's like there's breakfast in the green room for you. It's wild. It's day and night.
No wonder you love this over there. This sounds great.
Yeah.
And you
make good like money. Royalty.
Yeah.
That's what happens when people respect the arts. Who would have thought?
Yeah, on that, bloody hell. I mean, at the moment, we're all talking about the double standards and not being able to have dance floors and whatever. And then there was the Hillsong factor. Yeah, I can imagine it gets a bit sort of frustrating seeing all these things in the news, and you're just like, can we just play to an audience? And also different states have different rules as well. That's the other complication.
I've become the bitter old man now. I didn't even wade into it last week because I saw everyone picking up on it, sharing stories. And like throughout this whole period, I've been very vocal about criticizing the government. I was really happy to see that I felt I didn't feel the need to like scream about it, because like literally everyone in my bubble on Instagram was shouting about it. So I'm like, okay, great. At least this is on like literally everyone I know's radar. Whereas like a year ago, 6 months ago, I felt like maybe it wasn't so much. So I feel like, you know, there is a bit more of a general consensus that we are all getting shafted. I mean, it's a tale as old as time, really. It's no surprise to anyone, I don't think, but it has definitely taken the forefront of a lot of people's minds recently, and I feel that's becoming more and more tangible. And the more we talk about it, the better it is. I've taken a backseat in the past week because I feel it's become a little bit like screaming into the void, because I do have a bubble on my social media. It's like, I know the people who I'm talking to, I know they agree with me. So like, can we just, the only goal we can work towards is voting these people out when the election comes around. And that's the only thing we can do. So right now it's just like, okay, everyone knows, let's move on. Let's just try to improve it. You know,
it is kind of nice when you get to the point where you just go, you know what, I'm not going to waste my energy anymore. There's nothing more I can say, and you just kind of, it's almost just takes a big weight off your shoulders when you just go, you know what,
totally,
I've said enough, it's all good. Yeah.
There's two ways that comes about. One is you feel dejected because you feel like anything you do is not going to make a difference and that no one's listening anyways. But the flip side of that coin that I've kind of felt in the past week is that I don't need to right now necessarily, because I feel like a lot of other people are doing it already. A lot of other people are standing up for how I feel. So that, like you said, it's very freeing. It is a weight off your shoulders. It's like, I don't really need to stress about this. Or I do need to stress about it, and I do stress about it, but I don't need to stress about having a say in public, because that job has been taken by countless other people. So I think it is quite heartwarming that people are being more vocal than ever about it. I think,
yeah,
it's baby steps.
Yeah, and the arts has always suffered, you know, over the years. It just always has, because they can't define it and they can't figure out the end game, and they
totally,
or
and
they
I
just
think
don't get it. You know, your
average person who isn't privy to what it looks like behind the scenes is understandably seeing this as entertainment and as a nice to have, because in their lives it's like, it's nice to sit around and listen to music, but it has no stakes for them, you know. It's just this hobby for them. So it's only normal for people to turn around and go, well, if it's a hobby for me, if it's a guilty pleasure for me in ways, then the people making it, well, they're just lucky to be able to do it, because it's just this superfluous thing. It's not like you work, you know, to keep the country going. But then, you know, they don't realize it's contributing hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars to the economy every year.
Yeah.
And it's not just those egomaniacs on social media who are in a band like myself who complain about not making money. It's, you know, the sound guy, it's the people who are in the session players in the band, the producers, the booking agents, the management. That's all of them whose day job is doing all of this stuff. And if the shows don't happen, they don't get paid, and they don't pay the bills as well. It's not so much about the artist every time. It's there's hundreds of people behind that.
Did you have to go out and get a day job last year or the year before? And I know John's got he's a graphic designer, and I knew you were working somewhere. What were you doing?
For a hot minute, I was working at agencies as well, doing digital marketing, but I stopped that a couple of years ago. I mean, we were fortunate enough to get into a position where I could just about pay the bills. I mean, John still has his day job. He enjoys it very much. So he's crushing it professionally. Yeah. But I just figured my time is better spent focusing on this and just trying to make this as personally sustainable as I can. And, you know, I think a lot of that bears fruit when you do have spare time to, you know, get into writing sessions with other artists and do stupid stuff like ads for pizza. You start to realize, oh, I can actually monetize my skills in a way that doesn't sacrifice the creative output, you know? I just don't deal well with trying to balance the two. And I don't find that having any extra income other than what's absolutely necessary to pay the bills brings me any joy. It just brings me extra stress because I'll go then from work to band practice and not be able to focus clearly, which is, you know, a real tangible detriment to our output. So yeah, it's been stressful trying to make that a reality and trying to make that sustainable, but I've also been really fortunate. You know, we qualified for JobKeeper, which is amazing. So we were able to kind of keep our head above water throughout everything, all this bullshit. So I can't really complain from a personal level, but the stress that comes with taking that risk and not being sure if you're going to be able to pay rent in the, you know, a few months time, that stress is like so much less than the stress of trying to balance those two lives. And I would make that decision 100 times out of 100.
It's been a year. It's been a couple of years.
It has.
It's been great hanging out with you, and we didn't see this coming. I mean, when you think about it, it's been a run. I mean, we had lockout laws first of all, but then we had the bushfires, and then of course COVID kicked in literally straight away after that. I think you and I were at that bushfire benefit, and then I don't know, like a week later it was COVID. It was just crazy.
Literally, yeah. It was the next month. I mean, it's wild. I'm just happy that we're still able to do what we do and not have to go into debt for it. It's not romantic, a lot of it, especially now. You have to be really brutal and honest with yourself about it.
Yeah.
But, you know, we've been able to record and release an album, and we've got another record coming up that we're as happy as we've ever been with. So, I mean, I can't really complain. It's just been very, very lucky. That's all there is to it for us, and we're very thankful for that. It's no thanks to the government, but you know, we're still alive. So yeah, I'm grateful.
Well, look, as a fan, I'm also, you know, really happy and grateful. You got some more new music coming out, and
thank you.
You know, I can't wait to see you guys again, and I hope it's a gig where we can let loose, and let's hope it's a bright year ahead. But yeah, Novak, it's been great hanging out with you, and thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much, Becko. Love it to speak to you. I'll speak to you next time, man.
It is always a great chat with Novak from Polish Club. Check out the album on Spotify. Go and stream it, and they'll be on the road this year. Make sure you follow on Instagram, The Writer Pod. Subscribe now as well, because next week it's going to be one hell of an episode. This guy is an Aussie legend. He's still going after all these years. He's supported so many great Australian artists. He's also brought many international to Australia as well. And God, he's got some stories. We'll catch him next week on The Writer. Have a great week. Catch you then.